All right, we are at part 2. So part 2 here. We are here, and I'm so sorry. Some of these pictures did not load very nicely because what happened is just when I'm trying to save it as Google Slides document, so it's easier for me to put it in Moodle, because Moodle has, unfortunately, a size limit of the sizes of documents I can put in there. Some of the stuff gets lost with Google Slides, so sorry about that. Anyway, so we have it where during the Renaissance, most government were absolute monarchies, and that means that the king or queen had absolute control over everything. But what happened is, of course, when you're having it where you're starting to question things and you're starting to think for yourself, and you're not just being so focused on if your relationship with the higher authorities are in good standing or not, when you're not as concerned about that, you're starting to question your relationship between yourself and the government. And then what happens at the end of the Renaissance, we end up having a period called the Enlightenment. And so there's definitely going to be some aspects within the Enlightenment that maybe go against what we would believe would be accurate, but still, we're going to explore some of that. So we have Niccolo, maybe I'm saying this wrong, Machiavelli? Have fun pronouncing that for yourself. So he wrote The Prince, where he provided guidelines for city-states to maintain a firm grip of their power and people. He believed that a ruler should be willing to go to any lengths to maintain control. One's conscience should take a backseat. It's kind of scary when you think about it, actually. So really, with those statements, he basically came up with this: better for a ruler to be feared than to be loved. So he basically felt that it'd be better for a ruler to make sure that the people who serve him are scared of him rather than loving him. A ruler should be quick and decisive in decision making. Do you think that that's always the best case, or do you think that sometimes it's good to take your time and think something through? A ruler keeps power by any means necessary. Again, what if that ends up meaning that you are breaking the law or you're doing something wrong against your fellow humankind? The end justifies the means. So if you end up getting a good result, doesn't matter who you hurt in the process. And then, be good when possible, but also evil when necessary. That was quite the interesting thought process there, that's for sure. Then we have John Locke, and he had it where he explored how all people have basic natural rights that are granted by God and must be protected by government. And you actually saw in the Magna Carta where some of this was happening, where we're starting to look at the rights of individuals and not just where it's the rights of the nobleman, but of every person should have basic natural rights that are given by God. And the government must protect that. And that means that you should be able to have life, liberty, or freedom, not be a slave or anything like that. And you should also be able to have property, that each person should have the right and free access to that. And the government cannot take those rights since they do not grant those rights. So he felt like it was God who would give those rights. Government can't do anything against that. So that was what John Locke thought in this period of time. And then, again, I'm sorry, some of these pictures don't show up nicely, but one person should never have total control over a government. Now, this is where some of the thinking that's coming through Enlightenment is happening. So they felt like it was scary to have just one person have total control over a government. They felt like that was not healthy and not a good idea. They advocated for a separation of powers, where essential powers were divided among equal men or groups. And this is actually a man named Montesquieu who had these beliefs that he proposed during this period. He also felt like, again, all the powers of government in one place, not a good idea. He felt like it was better to split it up and have it where it's not all concentrated in one place. He felt like it was better to have different sections of government, so then that way it's not just one person ruling all, like a king or a queen. Absolute power, he felt, could corrupt. And then we have Rousseau. You can actually see it just slightly in the background there. He believed that people naturally enter into agreement with government upon birth, called a social contract, and citizens agreed to allow rulers to rule. In exchange, their natural rights must be protected. If rights are not protected, then people have a right to choose a new government. So interesting concept there, that's for sure. Then this picture was supposed to be a diagram of how basically, if the government is good and is protecting the rights of the people, then the government is secure. Whereas if the government is not protecting the rights of the people, then the government is no longer secure and the people have the right to overthrow that government. Again, I'm sorry that not all these pictures are showing up for you guys. Then we have Voltaire. He's the father of free speech, and he said, "I disagree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." And, oh, look at this. We've got another one that is blank. But really, this one was honestly just your final check here. So the final check, which was, how did thinking on government change during the Renaissance? So that's the one that you're trying to answer for yourself. Obviously, government had changed from being something that had absolute power to eventually where it's evolving into how they felt that it should not be absolute power. It should be shared power. It should be having it where it should be split among different people in the government. That way it prevents an all-powerful government. And also the right for free speech and things along those lines, and how the government should be protecting the basic human rights of individuals. So we have that. And then also just one thing to think about. Remember how before the church felt like it was a horrible sin to do an autopsy on a dead body? So here, you can obviously see that this painting shows that obviously society has majorly changed over the course of the Renaissance, where instead of being afraid or fearful or disapproving of things like scientific exploration where you would perform autopsies on dead bodies, they're now having it where they're actually starting to explore that because they're recognizing the value that can come from being able to explore what's within the body so that they can understand how our bodies work. All right, that is it for today. I want you to fill in all of these pages here. And then when you have finished all of these, especially these, especially these boxes here, after all of those boxes are filled in, I want you to share the document with me. That will be your homework check that you have finished this entire document and you've also filled in every single one of the quick checks. So just let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, just share your document with me when you're done and you will be finished this lesson then.